On this week's episode, Atari hits 50. A photo finish at the box office, and is Phase 4 making sense out of the MCU? All this and more as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our shows. And if you can, please give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, or do whatever you can to support us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every day, right there at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. Plus, also as well, we are the #1 tabletop RPG streamer out there on Facebook. So go ahead, check out what we're doing today at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook, plus all of our social media as well. And if you could do all that, including the great stuff at Humanica Media and all the things that we do at popculturecosmos.com as well. And if you could do all that, it is sincerely appreciated. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. He is our own Dragon Ball Z of Pop Culture Cosmos. You got to go ahead and check out what he's doing today at popculturecosmos.com, Humanica Media on Facebook, and humanicamedia.com, plus his great shows, the Super PS Gamescast, and also the entire library full of great shows at Topicocalypse, plus his amazing book, which you can get right now. I'm hoping it goes on sale for Prime Day, but you never know. Go ahead and get it anyways while you can. That is, congratulations, you suck. And that's available now at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. It is my good friend. It is Josh Peterson. What's up, man?
What's up? All right, so let me say something real quick. I've been seeing a lot of stuff for the Elvis movie. Did you get a chance to
Mm-hmm.
watch that?
No, but we will be talking about here in just a few seconds.
Okay, all right, yeah, because man, I tell you, like, I want to watch this movie. Like, where did this kid Austin Butler come from? It's crazy. Like, I've never seen an actor really personify their part as much as he's personifying Elvis. It's amazing.
Absolutely, and he's being critically lauded for it. His whole persona and the way he encapsulates Elvis has been appreciated by so many out there. In fact, he is driving this movie to success. How much success? We'll go ahead and talk about the battle at the box office here in a minute. Plus, also, as well, we're going to be talking about the 50th anniversary. Happy 50th for Atari. Yes, that means you are old if you know the beginnings of Atari out there. But we'll talk about all the good things that have happened for Atari and our Atari memories as well. Plus, if you want to go ahead and listen to us still, we truly appreciate it. But we will be talking a lot of good things about The Boys, Episode 6, Herogasm. And we'll see what we can talk about on a family friendly show. Can't talk a whole lot about The Boys Episode 6, but we'll tell you why. If you're a big fan of The Boys, you need to check out Episode 6 as well. Plus, Ben Arnault is stopping by. He's going to be talking about the MCU and where it stands in Phase 4. Is it where he wants it to be? Is it where we both like it to be heading into the final parts of Phase 4 and into Phase 5? Are we as confident of what's going on in the MCU as we once were with the previous phases in the MCU? We're going to talk about that coming up in a bit. And also, as well, Sega's Hyenas. Could Sega's Hyenas bring Sega back to a place of glory that only Sonic the Hedgehog has seemed to do? We'll talk about that on the show as well. But first, my friend, it is the battle at the box office. You said it, Elvis. And it's so funny that, for all this time, each and every week, we always prognosticate, or you always hear the analysts, they always kind of predict where the movie's going to fall and shake out on a worldwide and also domestic U.S. basis. And this weekend they had that planned. If everything goes according to plan, they figured it would be a $30 million opening. Well, lo and behold, my friend, the totals have come out, or at least the projected box office for this weekend. The final totals won't come out until after the show goes on air, but it looks like in a photo finish that Elvis will hit $30.5 million, almost to the dollar amount as far as what the analysts are saying. So it's going to finish right around $30.5 million. Plus, it will be right now in a photo finish with, of all movies, my friend, Top Gun Maverick. Top Gun Maverick had another slight decline, which is a great hold for that type of film that's been out 5 weeks. And that is also hitting right around $30.5 million as well. So I ask you, my friend, is this a win for Elvis? I think it is because, like you said, people are talking about Austin Butler's performance on it. They're not talking about Tom Hanks per se, and whether or not they like the transformation into Colonel Tom Parker, his accent, anything like that. They're talking about Austin Butler, and I think that's a good thing for this movie entitled Elvis.
Right, yeah, I mean, I so my wife was showing me footage of him on the Jimmy Fallon show, and, like, I'd seen trailers for it and, it was whatever, but, like, actually seeing this guy in real life, like Austin Butler, not in real life, but on the screen,
Mhm.
in a in an interview setting and just seeing the way that he acts and the way he's able to just, like, snap back into character, like, this kid is amazing. Well, he's not a kid, but, this guy's amazing, like, where's he been? I've seen him in the Sonara Chronicles on MTV, which was not like a great show and it got canceled. But that was the only other thing I'd seen him in. And I didn't think he had the acting chops that he's demonstrating on on this movie, and then they jumped into another trailer of the movie and like all of a sudden I got these goosebumps. I'm like, oh dude, I gotta see this movie. So I'm yeah, like I think that granted, I haven't seen the movie, but it just see like this. There's never been a trailer that's really like enticed me to the movie theaters like this has. So I really want to see this movie. Um, Also, I'm looking at you're talking about Top Gun Maverick, like it's almost at $1 billion. But you know what else is almost at $1 billion that you said wouldn't make it to $1 billion?
What's that?
Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Well, that no, I said that would get right around a little over $1 billion. I
Okay, I
said
thought
I
you
said it
said
was
it wouldn't
well,
quite get there.
I did correct, but I think you are correct because I did say that it was looking when right around $915 billion that it would probably $915 million that it would probably not have enough momentum to get to $1 billion unless worldwide it would really give it some help. So I think you're probably right. I did say that. Because I had predicted that it would be right around $1 billion going into the movie, but it was just looking like it was not going to do enough as far
Yeah,
as, and once it reached over 900, kind of had a lot of slowed momentum. Plus the fact that it's now on Disney Plus is not going to help matters in
right.
this thing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's about 55 billion, or sorry, it's about 55 million off of that 1 billion mark. So
it's going to have to do it overseas because it's not going to do it here domestically because again, it hit Disney Plus. So I think it's going to be kind of iffy if it actually reaches $1 billion. Maybe Disney will do just enough for it as far as
mhm,
promotion around the world to get it over that $1 billion mark. But we'll
yeah.
see. Like you said, 50 million away, you never know. But in the case of Top Gun Maverick, it is going to pass Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I'm thoroughly convinced that it will because it still has all this momentum domestically. It's like you said, it's heading towards that $1 billion mark a little bit faster than Doctor Strange. It just reached over $500 million here in the U.S. It is certainly a big hit. It is actually Tom Cruise's biggest hit. So let me say this. Let me ask you this. Does this mean that Top Gun has another movie in store outside of Maverick?
That's a good question. I feel like this I don't think anyone expected Top Gun Maverick to do the numbers that it did, and it's a very, like, for anyone who grew up in the original came out in the '80s, right? Like, it's,
Yes.
yeah, so anyone who grew up in that era and watched Top Gun and, it had the not privilege, but I mean, it just had the fortunate timing of like being a movie that's still in theaters around Father's Day. It had a lot of things working in its favor. That's not to say that it's not worthy of another sequel, but I'm curious how much is going to be able to be mined out of this property though before people are like, that was not good, you know?
Yeah, I hear you, my friend. We'll see what happens, but it is Top Gun Maverick, which is going to pass this week Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness as the largest worldwide gross for 2022. The Batman is right now in third. Jurassic World Dominion should pass it up in fourth at some point in time. So we'll see what happens there. But it's amazing that this tight
Nothing's
race.
crossed $1 billion yet this year. That's interesting.
No, no, and that's you can't really include Spider-Man because it debuted in December. Although it has earned probably $1 billion since its release here, because it's it hit about a billion. It's 1.8 billion was its final worldwide take, and I have a feeling that it earned quite a bit of that on the front side after 2022. But again, it started in 2021, so you can't really include that. What I
Can
want to ask you this as we close out our conversation again, Jurassic World Dominion looks like it's going to place itself in third. Lightyear, which is, I guess you're going to have to say it's going to be a disappointment as far as it's concerned because it dropped all the way down to fifth because the Black Phone has exceeded expectations and gone into the low 20s as far as the millions of dollars for a domestic opening with Ethan Hawke heading that movie, and that probably means you're going to see a sequel to this film because it only costs $15 million to make. So I want to ask you this: when it comes to the, I guess the numbers, when it comes to what we're seeing with Lightyear, even with Chris Evans fronting this film, it just doesn't seem like it. The return of Pixar to the big screen was a good one for Disney and Pixar.
I don't think it was the right property to do that. I think they were really clinging to this idea that Chris Evans was voicing Buzz Lightyear is going to take them to fame and fortune. But look at this. Like Lightyear is this is a property based on a property, you know? So it's like it's a weird thing. Like I don't think anyone ever sat down and was like, you know what, I would really love a Buzz Lightyear origin story. And I think that it's not so much the problem of it being, you know, whatever it was, or like Pixar making it, or the day it came out, though I think that was a big issue. I just think that this is a movie nobody really wanted to watch. You know,
Well,
nobody was really
yeah,
calling for that. If it was a like a Pixar original movie, like something that just like came out of you know left field or whatever, like I think it probably would have done more than $110 million.
I agree with you on that. I just think again it was kind of disappointing. I feel bad for my for my friend that works at Pixar. I feel bad for the individuals at Pixar because they were really looking forward to a return to the big screen of Pixar movies. And this now puts in question as far as the future for Pixar movies on the big screen because they do so well as far as Turning Red has been an absolutely huge hit on Disney Plus that maybe they'll look more towards in the future of putting Pixar movies on Disney
Yeah.
Plus.
Well, I also look at this as an issue, you know, outside the Marvel movies, of course, but I think that any Disney movie that is going to come into theaters is not going to do so well anymore because of how fast, and we talked about this before, but like how fast it lands on Disney Plus. Like I
That yes or no? I mean, Encanto didn't do so bad on in the theaters,
right, it did not do so bad in
but
theaters,
it took
but
off in Disney
it
Plus.
took
You're right.
off on Disney Plus. So you have a lot of people now who are coming to the realization, especially when we're looking at the prices of everything in the world right now, right? Like I went out to breakfast with my family the other day, and this restaurant we go to is usually packed, nobody in there, right? Because people are not doing things that they once did. Because like inflation, I think is honestly like the inflation we're experiencing now is going to affect the box office returns right now. Like we're seeing these movies take off, but I also feel like we're not going to see something cross $1 billion for a while because of just how much everything in life costs. So if you're looking at that and you're like, well, why don't I wait? You know, I could wait 6 weeks and just watch it on Disney Plus and save the, you know, $85 it costs to take my family to the theaters. I think there's a lot of people in that boat.
Well, we'll find out as far as that's for sure with Thor Love and Thunder, because that's coming up in the not too distant future. It's gotten already some people saying they're going to really, people are going to really like Thor Love and Thunder. Well, we'll see what happens there. I think that will be the litmus test for Disney
Hmm.
movies going forward, and we'll see what happens there. But we want to hear your thoughts on the photo finish for the box office with Top Gun Maverick and Elvis battling out for the top spot here in the States and worldwide. It still has the momentum Top Gun Maverick does as it reaches close and will probably go over this week $1 billion. Please let us know. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, before we hit the break and Ben Arnault on the other side of it, I wanted to go ahead and ask you real quick the boys' hero gasm, and that's probably about the most I can say about as far as elaborate on a family friendly show that we do for episode 6. If somebody asked me about the boys and say they've never seen the boys and they would only want to see one episode of the boys, I would probably say of all the episodes that have been shown so far, I would probably show them this one. It took a good season that was doing a lot of character development that wasn't providing as much of the action or cohesion that I wanted to go ahead and see from the boys that I saw in season 1 and season 2, and it threw that out the window and really did a great job of going ahead and telling its narrative along with the over the top gore and also over the top M-rated action that, and also just content that we've known from the boys. It is, I think, the best episode of the boys I've seen in 3 seasons. So I want to hear your thoughts on the boys episode 6. I know you have not had a chance to see it yet, but when you watch the boys and you know what comes up for episode 6, because you've heard about it a lot in the news, I know, in the past 24, 48 hours, what goes through your mind as you reach the boys episode 6?
I've been reading about this and I heard that this perfectly summarizes what the series is. It's unexpected gore, crude jokes, just everything that makes the boys so surreal in a world of like these superhero movies that paint pictures of heroes as being these like people without flaws. Like it really paints a picture of what this series is and what it does for people. And I'm trying to get to this episode. I just haven't seen it yet, but I'm glad that the boys is still going strong after all these years. I hear Jensen Ackles is actually really good in the show too.
I was going to lead into that. You just took the words right out of my mouth. Jensen Ackles is doing a sensational job as the Captain America spoof character, per se, Soldier Boy. His performance in this almost mirrors what I like so much about Anthony Starr's Homelander performance. I really, really think that it's worth watching just for that alone.
Yeah, because I heard that Eric Kripke got him onto the show, but he still had to audition for the part. Like it wasn't given to him, so he like worked for it, and he's actually like it fits who he is as an actor really well. So I'm excited to when I get to that part to see what's going on with him.
It is so crazy, my friend. It is absolutely an episode that is totally nuts. I can't elaborate or give you any spoilers on it from here because if I did, I think the FCC would shut us down. So unfortunately, I'm not able to do that. It is a very NSFW. It is a very MA rated episode. It is something that has to be seen to be believed, but it is a very good episode. It is actually the best episode of The Boys I've seen to date. And this is a show, especially the first season and second season, which I had such high praise for and acclaim as some of the best viewing on television. Season 3 started off, again, pretty good, not too bad. Did a lot of character building, so it took a different change of pace, but it took that and kicked in a higher gear with one of the best episodes I've seen of the year of anything on television in Herogasm episode 6. So, whew, man, I tell you what, it is just something again. It has to be seen to be believed. So if you're into mature rated content, it is definitely not for the kids. And if you're having the kids watch The Boys, I don't know. I don't know. Because this is very MA rated. Amazon, I think deserves praise from me for letting this go where it needs to go.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of expected from them, though. Like, that's why a lot of people are going to streaming services, though. It's almost like an expectation. If you're going to be watching something or producing something on a streaming service, you're gonna have the ability to go places that other people might not
Or
go.
other channels, would you not? Maybe
Other
cable
channels, like,
cable
you're
broadcasting.
exactly, like, when you're writing something for us, like, look at Game of Thrones, like, every episode shocked somebody, right? Like, there's something wildly inappropriate that people are just like, "Oh, okay, they did that." And then, you have this is why people create content for these platforms, because it's like that, well, what is the FCC gonna do to us? Nothing. They can't. They have no control over it. So let's just go wherever we're gonna go.
Absolutely. And it did go wherever it wanted to go, seemingly. So kudos to the makers behind The Boys. I know Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg have a little bit to say about that. So please, if you get a chance and you check out probably what I think is the best episode of The Boys to date, is episode 6, season 3, Hero Gasm. If you have thoughts on episode 6 of The Boys for this season, please let us know. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Coming up next is Ben Arnault from Smoking Hot Confessions. He is returning to us to talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where we stand in Phase 4, and is he altogether convinced that we're going on the same path that we did 10 years ago in the previous decade of the MCU? He's going to share his thoughts after the break. And then after that, we're talking Sega's Hyenas and a return to glory for Sega, possibly. And also, as well, we're going to be talking the 50th anniversary of Atari coming up after the break. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back with the show. It's the Pop Culture Cosmos. Thanks so much to Ben Arnault from Smoking Hot Confessions in part 1 of our conversation talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Part 2 is coming up, I believe, on Friday. We're going to go ahead and discuss the DC Universe. And with Flashpoint and the Ezra Miller issue, he has some concerns, as do I. So we elaborated at length in regards to that. Plus, he has another awesome, juicy, delicious tip for you barbecuers out there that he's going to share, and that's coming up on the Friday episode, the PC Multiverse. But before we head on out, my friend, it is Josh Peterson and me, Gerald Glassford, coming right back at you here. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Big shout out, as always, to our radio stations that go ahead and play us around the world. But before we head on out, my friend, Sega's Hyenas. I know that, like, huh? What? Sega's Hyenas? What? This is a game that was introduced last week as a multiplayer platform shooter, but with a context of space piracy here, as you're a space pirate in a world where billionaires have launched into space and fielded their own battlefield for you to go ahead and fight and collect certain aspects of pop culture as type of, I guess, valuable commodities per se. So I want to hear your thoughts. You took a look at the video per se, at the concept of what it's all about. It's not coming on the way anytime soon, most likely next year at the earliest. Your thoughts on Sega's Hyenas before we head on out.
What an honor for Elon Musk to have a video game designed around his essence, his being. um, like it looks cool. Like it's a very pretty looking game, and it's funny because it's like ironic in the fact that, like, hey, maybe this is something that's a direction we're actually heading in. So I don't know. I give him kudos for that, but it's just at the end of the day, like, it's just another multiplayer shooter, and with so many of them out there, is this really going to be something that, besides the people who play, will probably play it ironically, or like the meme lords, diving into this, will that be enough to keep people away from, like, the Fortnites and the all the other battle royale Call of Duty games? Will that be enough to bring them into this? Because right now we have these games creating worlds that people just don't ever want to leave.
But that's what I ask you here: is this Could this be a revival of sorts for Sega, which has only pretty much survived off these Sonic games, the 10,000 Sonic games that they've released over the past 20 years? That's just, which is something we've talked about on the show, that they've
Yeah.
actually done so much to go ahead and, in many ways, wring that Sonic dollar dry. I know the Sonic games of late have been a better step, and I know with Sonic Frontiers they want to go ahead and put it in a better direction. We'll wait and see what the results are that for results of what happens there. But Sega has had a lot of misses over the years to try and create another benchmark franchise outside of Sonic. I know you mentioned Fantasy Stars, been that nice little under the radar thing for them. I know that Alien Isolation was a nice hit, and the team behind that, Creative Assembly, is doing Sega's Hyenas. But again, when all comes down to it, there's really no other big thing that they've been able to live off of
Right.
since the demise of their consoles other than
Yeah.
Sonic.
One, I know their acquisition of Atlas was is another one, and they've got like Valkyrie Profile and the what do you call it? The like Persona games. But I'm looking at this and I'm thinking Sega's kind of like an Italian restaurant, right? Like they say if you throw your spaghetti noodles at the wall and they stick, then that's how you know you got some good spaghetti noodles. Like I think Sega, if they were an Italian restaurant, their walls would be like covered in spaghetti noodles that are slowly sinking to the floor because they didn't like quite.
Josh, you still there? Josh, you still
Yeah.
there?
Yes. Sorry, can you
Okay.
hear me?
Right in the middle of your great analogy. So you say that the noodles are sticking to the wall and what?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? Am I good?
Yes. Yeah, I can hear you
Okay.
now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
So
gotcha.
it's like they're in a their noodles are slowly like sinking to the floor, right? Because they're like, oh, this would be a great idea, and it's stuck at first, and then they're like, oh, it's not as good as we thought. And yeah, I think Bethesda used to do this a lot too. I remember specifically with like that game Brink, everyone was expecting to be really good, but I mean, they have the ability to make great games, but they don't step outside things that are comfortable for them. So this could be a good game, but they also like why not put a team together and create like a new single player experience? Like this this looks like it could be cool, but it also looks like it has the ability to further tarnish the name of Sega.
That is true. I mean, it could be another fail, but I don't know about tarnishing the name of Sega because it has been tarnished in many years,
Yeah, I
with
mean
many
it
failures.
won't pull them out of the it won't bring the spaghetti noodles back up the wall is what
I
I'm trying
mean,
to say.
it's a step above Atari, which we'll talk about here in a sec. That Sega is a maker, I think, that has, oh, okay, they've got Sonic, and
Yeah,
then not a whole lot else that they're remembered for. I mean, nobody really knows that they own Atlas and are making money off the Persona games and whatnot. But
yeah,
it seems like to me that Sega is not been a since the demise of its consoles, it's not gone in a great
right.
direction for them. I know that they tried very hard putting out games over the years, and at least the effort is there. I mean, we talked about kiddingly before the start of the show that I'd love to see a reboot of Alpha Protocol. I know you said you had some ones in mind that you'd love to see
Comic
rebooted.
Zone,
Yeah.
Earthworm Jim, like there's a lot of properties out there they just haven't touched in a long time, and I don't know why they're not. I don't know if there's like a because there is a new Earthworm Jim game coming out, but it's being made for the Sega Genesis cartridges. So like, why don't you bring your like big properties like that out of the nostalgia era and put them like try to bring them into the new generation? Like, is that just too much of a risk for them? I know Virtue Fighter does really well, but that's something that has been that's more of a like what do you call it? Like a something they've maybe put onto PlayStation. Like they're I don't know what I'm trying to say, but they have all these properties that could do really well. They just don't do anything with them. Golden Axe is a great example.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that should do to go ahead and revive the brand in a way. I mean, it's surviving. It's still doing okay
Yeah.
all these years, and like we said before, like we said before, you've got Sonics that can go ahead and seemingly do any type of variation on both a mobile and also a console platform, and it'll get its certain amount of cash,
Yeah.
but it's the future of the franchise, of the IP, of the actual Sega name is what we're
Mhm.
looking at, because you and I have fond memories of Sega oh so long ago.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I like I'm not saying they have to put out a new console because that probably wouldn't be a great idea, but, like, there are just so many games that, like, I loved as a kid that I would love to see, make the jump. I mean, look at what Nintendo has done for a lot of their older properties, and look at what Sony has done for a lot of their older properties. Like, this is the time, especially in this when people are trying to, show kids what they played, like a new generation of what they played as kids. That would be something that is definitely worth investing into.
Well, it is something, again, when it concerns Sega's Hyenas, that if it works out well, could bring Sega into a greater level of consciousness outside of, oh, yeah, they're the Sonic people, that really would get things kickstarted for their future. That elusive non-Sonic hit that they've been searching for seemingly over a decade now. So we want to hear your thoughts. If you've checked out Sega's Hyenas, the first video, it is scheduled to come out sometime next year. We'll see what happens there. Just want it to be good. I just want it to be something that people will get itself into. Please go ahead and check out Sega's Hyenas if you haven't already. But if you have, let's hear your thoughts on Sega's Hyenas, and if you think this could be a revival for Sega with Sega's Hyenas, please let us know. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, we're going old retro, old school as we head on out, my friend,
Keep
because,
hold on, keep talking for a second. Sorry, my infant's like screaming. Give me a second.
oh, you got it. Well, before we head on out, everyone, we're going old school once again, because guess what? Speaking of old school video gaming, it is Atari, and Atari has hit 50 years. Yes. Oh my gosh, I am old. I am old. I'm old because Atari has hit 50 years old as of this week. Happy anniversary, happy birthday to Atari as you hit 50. So many great memories over the years, especially everyone knows when they were hit the height of heights, when they were the video game console industry in the early part of the 80s and the late 70s with the Atari 2600 that did so well over the course of a few years before the crash of 1983 with Atari's ET being at the forefront of it. But Atari makes up so much of the story of the world of video games in the earlier part of its history. And Atari is still, to me, one of the most important parts of video game history over the course of the past 50 or so years. So I want to hear your thoughts, my friend, as Atari hits 50 this week. What are your feelings in regards to Atari being at that level? Not once again, because we'll talk about the future of Atari here in a bit, but what are your thoughts on Atari's place in history as it hits 50 years old?
Yeah, well, I mean, you think about video games in America, like Atari is synonymous with that history. They have, they were out before the Nintendo system. They were the first people to try to like take a computer and plug it into your television. They had this great idea like, oh, hey, kids love the arcades. What if we can take that arcade and plug it into your TV? So in that idea, like they're really great at what they did. They were just never able to fully evolve with the times. Like when the NES came out, they weren't able to really keep up with any of that. People were buying Nintendo games and Atari games were slowly failing. Um, they tried to make a comeback a few times. They've tried to make these PCs you plug into your television, and it just didn't work out for them. Even the new Atari like VCS, I think it was called, that just recently dropped. Um, that was
Yes.
another one. But
I mean,
I've
well, that was
also
just way too expensive.
yeah, I've also never seen a company like accidentally create so many collector's items. Like, hey, if it's your birthday, we'll make you a special birthday Atari game. And then lo and behold, that's like one of the most expensive video games. Now, if you have a copy of that, you can sell it on eBay for like crazy amounts of money.
Yeah. Well, again, when it comes to Atari, there's always going to be a level of love and affection for it. I mean, for the fact that they were so much of a part of the early part of video game history with Pong and the influence there, and then delving into the 2600. And I will tell you, living through that period of time as a kid, getting his first 2600, getting that huge box and taking it out of the Treasury department store that I actually took out of. It was called the Treasury, and it was just when I got it, I thought it was so special, and I thought it was just like one of the best times of my life in regards to when I got it. I was able to go ahead and plug it in and play it. I thought this was cutting edge at that time, and we know the graphics of the Atari 2600 are whatever that could be showcased for the early 1980s. But thinking of how special it was, thinking of how wonderful it was, it for many, many people out there, many boomers or Gen Xers out there, getting an Atari system was like, people getting a Nintendo system later, or getting a Sega or Sony system later on, or now these days getting a PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X.
The
So,
thrill of a new console is always great, especially
yeah.
if it lands in your lap on like a holiday or Christmas or birthday, and you're opening the wrapping paper. I still like love going on YouTube and watching videos where people just happen to film their kids opening Sega Genesis or Super Nintendos or Nintendo 64s and like seeing the pure just joy and ecstaticness on these people on their kids' faces. It's a beautiful thing.
And it is a beautiful thing, and it just was so fun to be a part of that in the early days when, again, it was either I started off with Pong, and then I evolved into the Atari 2600. And the Atari 2600, my friend, it was it. I mean, there was just Pong, and then after that, the Atari 2600 blew up. Everybody wanted a piece of that, so they made their own counterfeit or semi based off of Atari 2600 system where okay, it played Atari 2600 like games and it looked like the Atari 2600 and it acted and played it, but the Atari 2600 still was so dominant in the industry up until the crash of 1983 that it's really going to be hard to ever get back to that with so much competition now. But it holds its legacy. It will always have its legacy when it concerns what the past and what the history of is. We now ask you, and I now ask you, as far as for the future of Atari, with the future of Atari still in question as it hits its 50th anniversary. They're trying to go ahead and make themselves relevant once again. We talked about Sega making itself relevant outside of a Sonic realm. Atari is trying to go ahead with that process little by little by little. It's still their games are still no more at the level of what you say would be a popular indie maker would be as far as the level of look and feel. They are going to be releasing in the not too distant future at Atari Mania, which is an adventure game, but still different in that fact that it has samples of about 150 of their previous titles mixed into the story and weaved into the storyline that you are going to go ahead and navigate through. So I think that's a creative idea that could be a hit for Atari once again. But are you hoping, like I am, that we could find success for Atari? And do you think it will ever be relevant once again?
I think Atari's made a lot of really like stupid choices over the years, and I think that the guy who they have these people who own them. You know, it's kind of like it reminds me of like when Ron Perlman owned Marvel Comics. Like you have these people running their company that doesn't really know. They're just like eccentrics that don't really know much about
Or
the field.
hedge funds or stuff like that?
Right,
Yeah.
because I know like they had this like NFT hotel that they tried to do, and then COVID happened, and then that tanked hard, and then like I said, they tried to put out the Atari VCS, which is basically just a computer you plug into your TV. But at that point, with the $400 price point, why don't you just buy a PS5 or Xbox
Yeah.
Series X? And they've made a lot of really poor choices. So if I were them, I would seek out Microsoft or Sony, or I mean, I don't think Nintendo would touch them, but like Microsoft or Sony, and work with them to try to like bring Atari created games back to consoles instead of trying to create a new console because that just it's going they're so far behind in the competition now. It just doesn't seem like it would be a worthy investment or that they would have the funds to do that.
Well, Atari Mania hopefully will be a step in the right direction because it is looking like a game that's going to be fun. It has that 8-bit look and feel that I think a lot of people might like, or nostalgia as far as reaching to that element of it, and the fact that it has a sampling of over 150 titles from the Atari library might be a cool addition as you navigate through. So I'm hoping Atari Mania will get more and more looks at it, and hopefully get sometime a release date or window that we can go ahead and expect it. And this could be the start of something special for Atari to become big once again. But I do not hold my hopes so high because of the fact, like you said, Atari has had I guess, since the fall of the Atari 5200, way back when,
Yeah.
or the 78 or 100, the Jaguar was a failure. I mean, since then, there's just been failure after failure after failure for anyone who has
Mhm.
owned or operated the Atari brand.
Yeah, I mean, it would take a lot to save them at this point. Like right now, they're just it seems like no matter what they do, it just pushes them further and further out the door. So, I mean, unless it there is some kind of acquisition, by another company, I just that actually knows what they're doing, I don't see them prospering. And
Well, we'll
it's
see.
sad to say because, like, they have quite the legacy.
They do have quite the legacy. Over, 50 years now this week, 50 years of legacy as of this week. We do wish Atari all the best, and hopefully going forward that we will see a rise of the Atari brand once again in people's eyes so that a younger generation of gamers can go ahead and experience what I loved and I know you got a taste of as far as experiencing with Atari. But it is the 50th anniversary of Atari. We do wish everyone at Atari all the best on that and cannot thank you enough for all that you've done to go ahead and provide us with what we see in the video game world. I mean, we wouldn't be playing the PlayStation, Nintendo, and also the Xbox and PC gaming right now to the level that we do without the love of Atari so many years ago.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, anyone interested, there's a lot of good Atari documentaries out there, but the best one is the one by that has the Ready Player One writer going to
Yeah.
find the cartridges in New Mexico. That one's fun.
Love that. Love that documentary. That was
Yeah,
actually amazing. And yes, there was actually some truth to those rumors. I thought that was just conspiracy theories and hearsay about buried cartridges in the New Mexico desert, but it turned out to be the case. It
that's
turned out to
right.
be the case
That
indeed.
is right.
Yeah. So happy birthday. Happy 50th birthday, Atari. If you've seen the ride all the way through for Atari, yes, like me, you are old, unfortunately. Sorry to say that, but you are. But, anyways, are
There's also
you
an Atari game called Yar, so that's cool.
Yar's Revenge? That's correct. Yar's Revenge indeed. But please let us know your thoughts on Atari hitting its 50th anniversary. What are your memories of Atari? We'd love to know. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com, plus everywhere you get your social media. Tell us your stories about Atari and let us know your thoughts on Atari hitting 50. Please, once again, PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode. Just want to thank you so much for joining us. Any last thoughts before we head on out?
Yeah, actually, I watched Morbius this past week, and I see why everyone hated it so much. But it bums me out that there was a lot of potential for that movie to like have some cool things in it, but they just didn't spend they spent more time on spectacle than storytelling and character development, and I think that ultimately really ruined what could have been a cool thing.
I agree with you, my friend. Morbius was a missed opportunity, and unfortunately, it's going to still lead to more with Craven the Hunter and all the other things that we see in the Spider Man universe. It's going to be hit and miss from this point
Except
forward,
except Spider-Man.
except for Spider Man. But with Sony slinging those webs, we're going to see a lot more hits and misses because they love those spider dollars, and that ultimately counts for them the most. So sling those webs, my friend, because we're going to see more from the Spider-Verse in the not too distant future. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the pop culture cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great